I am excited for this video. So on the one hand, this video is like 3 years in the making. On the other hand, it's only a couple days in the making because the new season of Good Omens is like just out. But I'm very, very excited. I have been wanting to talk about this since I watched the season 2, like the whole season, in like one night, basically. The first time I watched it in one single night. And it, let's just say spoilers are going to be ahead in this video. It did kind of destroy me mentally how it ended, but I actually loved the season. Okay, so this is going to be, by the way, in case you were at all curious, this is going to be a Crowley-inspired makeup look because he is, of course, my favorite character in the entire show. You know, it's funny because, like, leading up to the new season, I've been getting a lot of comments on my original video about this show. And it's been interesting because I feel like a lot of people very much misunderstood my view and misunderstood where I was coming from on all of it. And I guess that, that's fine. Like, there's nothing I can really do about that. People take what they take from what videos you make, and wow, that kind of rhymed by accident. But you know what I mean? People are going to hear what they hear and read into it what they want to read into it. First of all, I just want to say I absolutely loved the season. Even though it ended in a very painful note, even though it was something that I watched till 5 a.m, and when it finally ended, I like literally stared at my screen like, you cannot possibly be ending the season here. I'm still like, I still love the show. I very much love the second season. I just recently, like literally last night, decided to rewatch the first season just for shits and giggles because I hadn't seen it in so long. And I was like, I do feel, and I'm sure this is going to be sacrilege to some people, personally for me, I actually like season 2 better. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I don't know like what the specifics are, but I really enjoyed season 2 better. I thought it was fun. There was a lot of moments in season 1 that made me like cackle out loud. It was so funny. But generally speaking, I don't know, something about the energy of season 2 was just more enjoyable for me. And yeah, I don't know. I like that it built upon everything we kind of knew from season 1. And mind you, I am one of those people who I have read the book. I love the book. I read the book, I think a couple years ago. I haven't read it since, which is unfortunate because I should read it again. But anyway, I have read the book and I love the book. So I truly, truly love the season. Season 2 to me was a little bit more fun. I couldn't tell you necessarily what specifically it was about season 2. I couldn't say like, I don't think there's an actual thing that I can point to and say, this is what it is about season 2 that was just so fun to me, or like this thing over this thing just really spoke to me. I have no earthly idea what it is, and I'm sure there's going to be some people who are like, oh, obviously it's, Crowley, but I do think there is one thing that I really, really enjoyed. The relationship of Nina and Maggie I thought was really, really fun, really, really cute. I liked that addition. I liked that kind of third party who becomes friends with Crowley and Aziraphale, and it becomes like this, like, okay, you can see things that clearly these two can't see. And I just thought it was cute. I thought it was cute how, Aziraphale clearly, like, just so deeply appreciated their romance. He really, really was here for it. He was very much, I just thought it was cute because he got so much enjoyment out of getting them together. And I don't know, that whole like element of it was really fun. I liked the addition of seeing, more of their past. I think that's always fun. I think with a show like this, it's kind of funny because when you can show this whole history of these two characters, you almost have like an infinite, amount of things you can write as far as like scenes between them, because you've got the entirety of human history to write. So yeah, of course you're going to do the biblical stuff, but like you really have everything else of like the entirety of human history that you can have them at and reacting to or in the backdrop of for whatever reason. And I think that's really super fun. It's kind of silly, but it's fun. And so, yeah, I really just enjoyed that. I really enjoyed, you know, additions to, you know, them saving each other and just all of that. It was really good. But I will say, I've said it kind of in the beginning of this. The ending of the season did completely break my heart into 1,000 little pieces. I'm not going to delve too deep into it. Obviously, if you've seen it, you've seen it. And if you've seen it, you probably don't want to hear me recount it. Because let's face it, like, it was heartbreaking enough to watch the first time. I've now watched it twice. And by the way, fun fact, I watched it the second time with my mother because I wanted to get her into the show. I don't think she really watched the first season, but I wanted to get her to watch the second season. Fun fact, even knowing that it's coming, knowing that the scene at the very end is coming and knowing it's going to hurt, did not make it hurt less. And actually, even my mother was heartbroken by that scene. So thank you, Neil Gaiman. So yeah, I really, really loved this season. I really, really loved how fun it was. I loved, you know, seeing Crowley be very protective of Aziraphale when, you know, Gabriel comes in and he's like, you should not be here, first of all. But also, second of all, you don't even know what you've done and how fucked up it is. And I'm gonna inform you of it. Like, that was a really fun moment. I love to see him just, you know, be protective and feel how he feels. But I also loved that the show kind of felt like it was, you know, responding to other people. Because, I mean, it's not as if the first season didn't kind of do this. I mean, one of the episodes, I think the last episode, Aziraphale is confronted by Uriel and Michael, and Uriel pointedly refers to Crowley as Aziraphale's boyfriend in the dark sunglasses. So, like, it's not as if people weren't commenting on their relationship. And I suspect part of that is, from what I understand, people have been reading into their relationship since the novel came out. So I assume that was Neil Gaiman's kind of like, yeah, you know, people see what they see with them, and even angels are not immune to seeing they're clearly meant for each other. Let's say that. So I appreciate that. I can appreciate the humor of that, certainly. And I really, really enjoyed this show. It was well worth the 3-year wait. I will say that. And I'm hoping, I know that season 3 is like, Neil Gaiman has said he has it ready. The biggest issue right now, of course, is the writer's strike going on. And just for the record, I am in full support of that. I feel like I've said, maybe I haven't said in another video, I have meant to say, I am in full and complete support of that. It's long overdue. I think it's so disgusting and distasteful that this is even like an issue of like the question of, oh, do people deserve a living wage? Like, it's so distasteful and disgusting. And then of course, you know, you've got all the AI shit. It's just like, it's such a horrifying scenario. So I am hoping that there will be a positive resolution soon. And not just because, you know, TV and film. I'm hoping there's a positive resolution soon because hearing Bob Iger say he wanted to wait people out until they started losing homes is really fucked up. And I know some people have said that he can't afford to do that actually, and that it's gonna bite him in the ass. But I just feel like just the implication, wow, that one got so much darker. Just the implication that is something you are like almost looking forward to in a gleeful sort of manner, the way it was said, just felt so disgusting to me and really made me feel like I don't know how anyone could look at you and not think like, wow, you're a fucking monster. Like, I'm sorry, but anyone who would say such a thing, anyone who would like so gleefully be like, yeah, I would rather you go homeless than get even a penny more money, is so absurd to me, because it's not as if they're asking for a lot here. They're asking for what they deserve. So the fact that this is like so contentious is just wild to me. It's so wild. It's so disgusting, and it's so disheartening because, look, as an artist, I've been writing for the last 20 years. I have not been paid for my art for the last 20 years. And for my whole life, I have heard the phrase, you can't make money doing art. That's not going to pay the bills. You have to have a real job. You can't, basically just everyone and their grandmother reminding me that this is not something that makes money. This is not something that people consider worthwhile to do. Oh, I love that it's like almost looks like bat wings. So it kind of gives more, sorry, I'm like all over the place. This look is really cute. Anyway, so, I have been reminded my entire life from the time I was a child to, into my adulthood, I have been reminded that people do not take art seriously, that people do not, even if they love it. A lot of us, you love television, you love films, but you don't take the work seriously. You don't take what goes into it seriously because you've never had to. You know what I mean? Everything is just like, oh, it just exists, and it's like it just pops into existence. And that's not how it works, but that's how it seems. And I think what that creates is this idea that art and writing and novels and all of these things that people enjoy don't have an intrinsic value. And if they do, it's not the value that other things do, And it's like, there's so many things in this world that art has contributed to and music contributes to and all these other things. We all indulge in some form of art, right? We all indulge, if you like TV, if you like movies, if you like music, if you like books, if you like fanfic, if you like drawings, we all indulge in art. And yet it is so normalized in our society to devaluate art and say that art isn't important and that it's not, has no intrinsic value, and therefore artists don't deserve to get paid because art is not considered real work. And it's just so, that's just so absurd to me. And I feel like, this is a side tangent that kind of has nothing to do with the show, but also it does ultimately affect the show because whether or not there's going to be a season 3 is entirely dependent on how long it takes for this, shutdown to get finished. Neil Gaiman has said he has it ready. He will begin writing the second the strike is no longer going on because he's striking in solidarity. It's kind of absurd to me, and it's kind of infuriating to me how often art is just seen as a frivolous luxury, and the people who get to be in art because they can kind of afford to, we've gone into this world where now most actors and singers and people who are successful or at least known in film and television and the writing world and all of that are going to be people whose parents did it, and so they can just have a leg up into the world. You know what I mean? There's all these discussions about people being, nepotism babies, and part of the reason that exists is because other people can't afford to get into it. They cannot afford to get into something like acting when, acting isn't a job where you have any kind of guaranteed income. Acting isn't a job where you necessarily have a guarantee. Even if you're, and that's the thing that we've learned since, is even if you are on a wildly popular show, if it's a streaming show, they're still working their day job most of the time. Can you imagine being an actor on one of the most popular shows in the world? I heard, stories about the people from Orange is the New Black on the most popular show on Netflix at the time that it came out, and for quite a while after, and they were still working their day jobs because they couldn't afford not to. I mean, what does that say here? Why is that not something that's like concerning to people? How do you have, and like, that's, it's so disturbing to me that that's the case and that everyone's just fine with that. It's like, no, you're working on a very popular show. That should be what you do. Why should you have to work a second job, a second or third job just to be able to afford your home? And then you have to consider too, and people have talked about this, if you're someone who's filming in another state and your main house or main apartment is in like LA, but you're filming in another state or another country, and they give you a one-time moving expense, and then that's it, and you have to just figure everything out from there, that is criminal, is what it is. It's ridiculous, it's absurd, and it's also criminal. And it's just become so commonplace, and we never knew about it. And it was funny because I was having a conversation with my mother the other day about this, and she was saying something about, oh, it doesn't seem like the last time they had a strike, it really, had the effect of making a lot of good change, maybe, because this is still an issue. And I said, yeah. I said, but the thing that's really different this time around, the first strike was in 2007, I think everyone's kind of said. Our social media landscape at that time was not the same. We did not have the access to actual people who were actually being affected by this. At the time of the, most recent strike from SAG and the Writers Guild, we did not have access to hear from people directly. Yeah, maybe if they were in the paper, but most people weren't going to be seeing the paper, or they didn't, it's not like they went looking for it necessarily. But this time around, because of things like Instagram and TikTok, because of things like all of these social media platforms, you can really hear from actual people who are actually affected by this in real time as they are striking. You can see pictures of them on the picket line. Like, you can literally see in real time all of this happening. And it's not just them. There's a lot of workers on strike right now because of so many things going on and so many, frankly, labor violations that are going on right now. It's not a coincidence that it's all happening at once. It's not a coincidence that all of these things are falling and tumbling into each other. It is not a coincidence. And I think, as I said, because of our social media situation, I think that is propelling it ever more forward, because now we can see with our own two eyes exactly what is happening. We can see, we can hear it. I feel like it's weird. It feels unavoidable. Like, I cannot turn around and not see like news of this, and not just news, but like full on like videos and all of these things, because I follow people who are in the industry, because I follow people who are writers and actors and all of these things. And that's who most people follow on social media. Yeah, you've got your family and shit, but most people are following at least a few celebrities. So like, obviously, there is something to be said for all of this. We are seeing these things more than ever, and we're seeing them up front and personal, and you can't look away from it. You can't ignore what the reality is. And I think that's what makes it more interesting this time around, because I think whereas in previous strikes, heads of the networks could kind of hide behind everything and kind of set their own narrative of what this is about, I feel like now hearing actual people who are actually affected by this and in the middle of this strike, hearing them and seeing that it's not just this idea of a writer's room that is tucked away somewhere and you can't see them. You are now seeing the real effects of this on real people in real time, and it has an effect. And so we are now living in a world where you can see these things where you could not before. And that absolutely is going to play a factor here. Do I think there should have been some conclusion like quite a bit ago? Yes. And we've seen very disturbing tactics from the studios, to the point of illegally chopping down trees in the middle of the biggest heat wave in our history in America, and, you know, basically making it so people could get heat stroke and like get very, very sick. And it's like, yeah, that's disturbing behavior. And that's not, you know, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about the disturbing behavior on behalf of the studios who are doing these things. That should be an alarm bell for people. You know, you are not in the right. Like, you have to know these are not the people in the right here. If you're resorting to that kind of tactic, you're not in the right with this. I'll get off this tangent in a second. The thing of it is, ultimately, people like Ryan Murphy and production studios and all of them would have no show without writers and actors. They just wouldn't. I don't care how much you want to say that AI is going to be the wave of the future and people are going to give a shit. You can't even, like, no. It's dead in the water. Don't even try. People are not going to put up with it. And, you know, because AI cannot actually think for itself. But it's also just like, you need that human element. You need people. You know, people are what make the film. People, you know, writing is what makes these films and TV shows. Actors are what make these films and TV shows. You know, and bringing it back to Good Omens, I don't know that with any other actors this show would have been as interesting. I could not picture, I know there's been other actors who were, you know, named for it. I could not picture the show with any other two people than with the actors that they got in Michael Sheen and David Tennant. So, like, you know, this idea that, oh, you know, anyone can be replaced. Like, no, absolutely not. Not anyone can be replaced, in fact. And, like, I don't know why this is, like, such a contentious thing. It's so frustrating to me. I would rather people be treated fairly than say, oh, I want my show now. And anyone who is reacting that way, I just want you to know you're selfish. Like, I don't care what your reasoning is. It's selfish, and I think you need to reconsider your values. But I do kind of like that the highlight feels like a very, like, you know, a little angel dust, let's call it. I appreciate so much that the second season really went hard to prove the point of, like, these are characters who are in love, and here's another queer set of characters that are in love, and here's trans inclusion, just so we really make the point clear that this author is inclusive, unlike some other authors, and they are really making an effort to hear what people are saying and to hear, you know, what it is we're asking for. Especially when, and I think it's so important, especially when you consider the era that we are in right now, wherein LGBT people are under attack even more than we have been in the last, like, decade or 20 years. I have to have hope that this is not the way things are going to continue. But right now, they are very, very bad. I can't even go on that tangent either, because that's just going to depress the fuck out of me. So I gotta try and stick to the show so I can at least have something positive to cling to, despite the ending. I'm not gonna give that up. I'm sorry. That emotionally wrecked me. So anyway, to the more positive notes, I thought it was very fun. I thought it was very funny. I thought the inclusion of Nina and Maggie was a amazing inclusion. Always love to see lesbian inclusion anywhere we can get it. Yes, I prefer, you know, a butch femme character when you can get it, but it's fine. It's fine. I loved the way this went. Obviously, this is not necessarily meant to be an overarching review. I didn't take notes for this review necessarily because it's not a review, because I don't do reviews. This is not a review channel. But I just wanted to say that, like, I did appreciate that this season was more vocal about what it was. This season was very, like, clear about what it is. You know what I mean? It was very, very clear and obvious what was happening here. It was very, very clear and obvious what was going on here. And I appreciate that. Very, very happy to have seen this. Very, very happy to be making this follow-up video. Do not doubt that when season 3 comes out, I will be making another follow-up video, whether that is in a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, I will be making a follow-up because I still love this show. I love talking about this show. And I've also evolved in my format of how I do these videos, and I kind of like that. I think that's fun. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to comment down below. Tell me what was your favorite thing about this season. Tell me how you feel and are recovering from the final episode of the season if you have seen it, because that was rough. And of course, like this video, subscribe to this channel if you want to see more videos like this where I put on my makeup and talk about shit. Subscribe to my Patreon where you can see more behind the scenes content. Thank you so much for watching this video, and until next time, stay devilish.